Hello.
Hey.
Hello! Welcome to the Honest Property Podcast. We're your hosts, Becky and Ruth, and we've got two special guests today, Will and Sarah Dobson. They are a married property power couple with 2 kids and a very cute dog. Do you want to tell us more about yourselves?
Yeah, do you want to go first?
No, you go first.
Okay, so yeah. So where do you want us to start?
So just your backgrounds and why you've both now ventured both together into property full time.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I'll start. So I'll probably start with the most relevant stuff. So my career prior to going into property has been recruitment. So I worked in healthcare recruitment for about 11 years now. Me and Sarah met when we were traveling and just doing, chalet hosting and not career jobs, the fun jobs, basically. So we came back. I got into recruitment, done that for, a long time, sort of worked my way through. I always had these aspirations of climbing the corporate ladder, which I think when you're a 20-something going into anything, you just want to do that. So that was always my goal. And I did that, sort of got myself up to director level. And I don't know, just where we were in our life at the time. We'd had a little bit of property and stuff, obviously had 2 kids, was sort of time freedom became a little bit more important to us. So that's how we started thinking, right, how could we really kick the property stuff on rather than it being just something on the side, which, we get a little bit of money out of and we've got an asset, which, will be a pension pot or retirement fund. How can we actually go into this properly?
We started with, so it was, we rented where we live in Yorkshire, now in Leeds. And then we bought a house, which needed completely doing up, total renovation job. It was just flowery carpets, avocado bathroom, which I actually didn't mind.
You wanted to keep it.
Yeah, I quite liked the
bathroom.
Avocado bathroom, genuinely. And I do think they will come back in. However, it was very tired. So we did take it out, didn't we, and replace it. So we basically lived there for 10 years and did it up bit by bit. And then about 7 years in, I would say, this was back in 2018, 19, I think Charlie was only 2, we refinanced the property and we took about 30,000. So we didn't take all of what we'd got in there. We just took about 40,000 out. Anyway, we put that down on a house in North Wales because we loved going to Morphneffin, which is where it's just got such a lovely place. I can't talk highly enough about Morphneffin.
You went there as a kid, didn't you?
Yeah. I just and the beach there is amazing, and just swimming in the sea because I love swimming in cold water and stuff. It's so. Did I mention I like swimming in cold water? It's just so great. And then because we're both quite active, I like running and stuff and walking and that type of thing. Yeah. So we wanted to use that as a second home because the mortgage was really quite low. But then in COVID, we thought, let's start making some money from it. And as my art business kind of became less and less what I was making money from, the Airbnb was bringing in an income. I was thinking, it's bringing in about £800 to £1,000 a month now. And in the summer, it was really, on average, it would make about that. So I was right, well, if this is doing that, how can I do more? And that's when we started seriously kind of looking into property, isn't it? And
you sort of stumbled across the Samuel Leeds and the Instagram side of things.
So is that where you had your training with Samuel Leeds?
It was. So I went and did the crash course. And it was a £1 crash course.
Both went, didn't we?
We both.
Yeah, one in Leeds.
Yeah, and honestly, I know Samuel Leeds. He's some people love him. He's like Marmite, isn't he?
Yeah.
So I love him. I thought he was really great, and he and I ran to the back of the room and I bought the £2,000 essay course, and that was the only training I've done. So I've only really spent £2,000 on the training, and I'm an advocate for training. I do think it's really important. But I have learnt a lot of podcasts, YouTube videos, like as much as I possibly can, and just networking on Instagram.
You'd learnt loads of stuff before, hadn't you? Like you were sort of watching loads of YouTube videos and stuff like that, and I think like the training for you reaffirmed that you're doing the right things, rather than it being like go into it and being like, wow, there's all this stuff I didn't know. You like came out of it and you were like, I know what I'm doing here.
Well, as much as you can. And there were tips as well that I picked up, definitely. You know,
your background is in teaching, isn't it, and art?
Yeah. So when we came back we were doing a ski season with both chalet hosts. So Will used to be a chef, and then I came back and trained to be an art teacher. So I worked as an art teacher only for like 3 years, I think, and realised that I love teaching. I love the kids. They were great. The staff were so miserable. I cannot even. Honestly, I looked and I was like...
It was bad.
Particularly in the school I was in. Every school's different, but and every teacher's different. But I looked in the staff room and there were people that had been there for like 20 years and they were just miserable. And I just looked and I thought, I don't want to be like that. I was only about 25, 24. And I thought, I just don't want to... I could see it just going the same way, and I just thought, oh no, not for me. I like time freedom is like the thing, and and although I respect teachers because the job is so difficult, it's so hard. Like it's definitely harder than what I do now, and what I do now is quite stressful, especially when you get, like, guests complaining about cobwebs and a spider being there, and like, you know what it's like. I
guess you guys you're actually passionate about what you're doing as well. Like my husband personally, he's a teacher and he loves what he does, but like the reason why I'm personally investing in property is to give him the choice to work part-time or retire one day, but not have to work the 20 years in a teaching role because he doesn't have to. And that really is the goal. It's like for us, it was enjoying a job without the stress of
the pressure having choices.
Yeah, you've got to get the balance. It's so cliched, isn't it? And you hear it now more than ever, which is really good. People talk about it, but work-life balance, you know, and that side of stuff. And I was quite fortunate in recruitment, wasn't I? Like, it's out of all the, I don't know, industries you can go into that's sort of our corporate job, you're in an office. I think it's a pretty chilled out one. Like it's intense and it's very hard work. And there are times that it was really hard. COVID was mental, very pressured. It's target driven, but you get lots of people who fall into recruitment. So it's, you know, I don't think there are that many people who, like, you know, doing their GCSE choices and they're like, oh, I'm going to work towards being a recruitment consultant. You know, you get a lot of grads go and do it. And so there's people, they like it, they like making money out of it, but are not that hung up on it. So I was quite lucky with it. And I think the company I worked for last were, you know, so good in terms of work-life balance. But for me, it just got to that point, like I said before, I just wanted to climb, you know, and just wanted to be a managing director. And I got to director level and I was like, yes. And then I was like, what next? Because I'm that sort of person. And I was like, all right.
I think we're both a bit like that.
What is next? Like, what do with it? And then I was like, you know, I could get equity in this company. And I was like, I'd probably rather set my own company up. And that's when we were like, right, we're at this natural crossroads, really, that natural watershed moment where the property that Sarah was doing with the Airbnbs was doing well enough to give us an income.
Yeah.
I'd earned well for the past, you know, few years, and we were like, well, let's do it and
take that risk.
Going back to that work-life balance thing, it's like, like if we can do that and get some freedom. I've mentioned time freedom. That's really important for us. We obviously want the lifestyle. You know, we want money out of it as well. But you're really passionate about the property, aren't you?
Yeah, I think
you absolutely love it. I do as well, but not, you know, not to the same level as you. But
in recruitment, I think he was leaving at 7 a.m, and then he'd be coming back at almost 7 o'clock at night. So it almost felt like within those hours that he just was missing out so much on the children growing up, literally, like just missing all the tea times, all the little park trips, like everything. And then, it just was a bit like, God, it's just, we don't want to do that anymore. Like we'd rather earn less. I'm not hugely money motivated. Like, obviously I want to go on a nice holiday, I want to have a nice house, like those are the things that are important to me, but it's more having that time to be able to just say, oh well, today we're going to go for a hike up in the Yorkshire Dales. Like, that's, you know, that's for us, that's what we like to do. So it's, and I'm not materialistic. Like, I don't want the newest handbag, like I don't want a fancy car, like it doesn't motivate me at all. Like, I would, if I was going to have a car, I'd have a Ferrari. That's what I'd have. And that I'm not interested in anything in between.
I love that. All or nothing.
Ferrari or nothing.
That's it. Like, I'll drive my Tekka until I get the Ferrari, and it's going to be orange. So.
I know. We were going down the road the other day. We're on the motorway on the M1, and this Ferrari came along, and Sarah clocked it. She really like that. I want that. And it was like a red Ferrari. It's gone by, and Sarah was like, "Yeah, I'll get it in orange." I was like, "What?"
It was yellow.
Was it yellow? Yeah. I was like, "Oh my word." But that's how we sort of got to that point. It seemed like the right thing to do, to go into property. And I've set up my own recruitment company. So at the minute, I've got a one-man band recruitment company. So it's been 4 months since I left.
Oh, amazing! Congratulations.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks. And that's that's really good. That's definitely keeping me busy. But just previously, if we were doing something property wise, it was like I had a viewing in the week, and I don't know, one of the kids was off school or something. Then it was like, oh, we can't do it. Yeah. So just having that little thing of having me around where I can be more involved. So I can go view a house if Sarah can't, or vice versa. Just support with running the essays, like, we had one over in York, which we'll come to in a bit, and just being more hands-on with that side of stuff. It's allowed me to have 1 foot in property and 1 foot in recruitment, which is really good. But the way I see it is I don't have any goals to build a huge recruitment business with 1 million employees. It's a means to an end. The money I make from recruitment is going to be put into property, and then that will just accelerate that end goal of us being, being able to be less hands-on and just have a portfolio that works for us and get that time freedom that we crave.
Yeah. And it sounds like flexibility as well.
100%. Like stuff, I don't know, if I was employed, I wouldn't be able to do this podcast. I was about to put, can you do it at lunch, or can we have half a day's annual leave? And they seem tiny, those little things, but the amount of times in a working week those little things come up, that I used to get massive guilt. I was so committed to who I worked for, and if I was like, oh God, I've had to do this and it's run over, I'd be like, beat myself up about it. Whereas I know I work on my own time now. So,
just work in the evening.
Just work in the evening, or, I can go and pick the kids up from school, or do those little things. And those little bits just give such a nicer balance. Yeah. And we know we're working towards that sort of end goal of, having more time. And
I think as well, like for me with property, it has given me a lot of personal confidence. So a couple of years ago, when I had the children, I suffered quite badly from anxiety, to the point where it was rubbish, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was pretty tough. Yeah. And I don't really talk about it a lot, and I've only really just come to the point where I can actually like speak about it. And I would say I'm pretty much like recovered from it. Like, obviously you still, if you suffer from something like that, you do kind of sometimes get it. But yeah, like it has given me a new lease of life in that respect. Like, just being able to learn and grow and know that I've got something that is so like it's mindful as well. Like, when you're learning, it's just constantly taking something and you've got something else to think about in your mind.
It's like it's feeding your soul, like your creative soul.
Yeah, it is. And I think I've just discovered about manifesting. Read a really good book by Rox.
Oh, do tell us, because we love that stuff.
It's really good. It's called Manifest. It's got an orange cover. I'm listening to it on Audible because I'm dyslexic. I really read. Like I do read books. But,
I'm an Audible fan as well.
Yeah, audiobooks.
Audiobooks are so good because you just listen whenever, can't you? Like running or having a bath or whatever. But yeah, it's literally manifesting is all about having a clear goal and a clear vision, and then just letting that go, if you see what I mean. But working towards it with small steps and trusting basically in the universe that that will happen, and it's like putting it out to the universe. And now that I've learned about it, when I look back at my life, I see things that have happened, and I'm thinking, well, yeah, that I manifested that without realizing. It's all about positive energy, not dwelling on the negative as much. And that's difficult sometimes, because there are things in your life that, you know, are negative, or there's influences that people will turn around and say, oh, you're never going to make it. Like, just don't bother. Just because they're trying to keep you safe. But
yeah.
You
get that with property, especially, don't you?
Yeah,
and because obviously
risk,
our route into property, or obviously we bought the second home and Airbnb it. No one really bat an eyelid at that. But when you're like, oh yeah, I'm doing some deal sourcing. Oh, what's that? And you sort of explain it, and people go, nah,
what?
You're mad, that's rubbish, and don't do that. Where did you learn it? Oh, there's this guy on Instagram. Oh, right, yeah, that sounds legit, you know, and people listen
sounds
to
like
it.
a scam.
And you're paid to be trained and all this, and people's best interests, you know, obviously they've got your best interests at heart, but
could you guys tell us a little bit about all of the different strategies that you actually do? So we know that you do sourcing and rent to SA, and you're doing social housing BRR.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we've missed? But do you mind
nodding? Yes.
Yeah. Do you mind?
Yes, all.
Do you mind explaining what deal sourcing is for people who don't know?
Yeah, of course. So
you go for sourcing.
Do you want me to do the sourcing? So for deal sourcing is at the moment I'm doing deal sourcing for supported living companies. So the supported living companies I work with deal with autistic and people with learning difficulties. So people that've got autism and the learning difficulties. So what I'll do is I'll go out there, I'll find the landlords through my network, and then I'll present the supported living company with the landlord and the house. And if it suits their needs, which it can be quite tricky because there's a lot more regulations with that sort of thing. But if it suits their needs, then they'll take it, and then we charge a fee. So and the same goes for serviced accommodation. So if someone is maybe just starting out and they can't find, because it's hard with agents, because agents sometimes don't want to give you their house because it basically they know that company's going to look after it really well, and they might lose that business. So that's why a lot of them don't do it. And I think so they come to us instead and say, oh, we're looking in this certain area. We do source really now quite bespoke, so we don't just like go out there and find loads of houses and chuck them out on Instagram. What we'll do is we'll work with investors who want to start doing it, or even if we've got people that have been doing it already, they just don't have time to do it themselves. So we recently sourced one in Malham, which is like a honeypot area in the Yorkshire Dales. Beautiful place. It's
amazing.
It's been
house,
on,
isn't it?
It's been on Harry Potter, hasn't it?
Not the house.
The cliff. No, not the house, but the cliff. You know, like the limestone pavement. Yeah, Malham Cove's been on there. But the house was a 4-bedroom house, beautiful, set in its own grounds. Had an annex with it as well, 1-bedroom annex. And we sourced that on. We were going to take it on ourselves, weren't we? But then they didn't want to do it when we wanted to take it on. And then they came back to us about 5 months later and said, oh, we want to do it now. And we were like, well, we don't have the money to set it up. So we found someone else to do it. And this company have done it amazing. And they're like getting loads of bookings on it now, aren't they? And so they do, and she's actually the girl who's set it up, Feature Properties. They have decorated it all because she's quite arty, and she's done a really good job of it. Like, she works at Farrow and Ball, so she gets some of the paints from there.
Oh, love that paint. Really good paint. Very nice paint.
So that's sourcing. And then you can source for BRR as well, which I want to sort of get into because we're doing the BRRs now. So we kind of know what to look for. We know what an all money out deal is.
So BRR, just for any beginners listening, is buy, rent and refurbish. So you source for all sorts of types of strategies then. That's really cool. Is it all quite local, everything that you source for, or is it nation?
We've sourced all over.
Sourced all over. We tried to do it more locally because we sort of found that if you know an area, then you can advise more.
Yeah,
I think that's what we learned. So we started off doing the sourcing for rent to SA, which is what most people do. And like Sarah said, probably started off in a way that lots of people purvey it. If you see stuff on social media, like, I just made 6 figures off of deal sourcing and, blah, 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 and all this. And look, that's great. That works for some people, but I think it's a bit of a spray and pray approach where it's like, I'm just going to hammer landlords. I'm going to be on open rent. I'm just going to send a million messages and get these properties in, and then I'll just find the first investor and I'll chuck it and I'll get my money and I'll go on to the next one. Not that we did it in that way, but that was our introduction into it. And we soon realised that wasn't really sustainable. There was a lot of.
So what are the difficulties, and are you kind of considering what you're saying now that it wasn't sustainable? Are you continuing to do it? So are you just doing it for social housing? Are you not doing it for artists?
We're still doing it for SA, but we've got like a group of people who we know who we've worked with before. They have Airbnb. Well, some of them are like first timers, but the people we have a relationship with, and it's much more, to coin like a recruitment term, it's a bit more of a consultative approach. So if someone reaches out to Sarah and like, I've seen you doing some deal sourcing, rather than just like firing over 6 properties and then take one of these, we're like, right, let's sit down, let's have like a discovery call, find out what they want, find out if it's right for them, find out if they can afford to run it, are you aware of this fee, and make sure that we sort of like, I don't know,
a good fit.
Just proof them and vet them really. And then we try and link them with people where there's going to be where the working relationship's going to work between the landlord and the person taking it on. So we do it for SA, but it's much more, like Sarah said, on a bit more of we have a spec and then we'll go and work to that spec and go and find something for them, because otherwise your credibility can just be at stake with both parties. If you go and tell, we go and sell the dream to a landlord and say, oh, you've got a 5-year deal and blah, 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 and 6 months into it, the break clause has been activated, and they're like, well, that wasn't what it looked like. And then your investor's got a bit of a sour taste as well. So we are doing and we find that's just a more sustainable way of doing it. Probably a better way of doing it.
We recently, my dad and my sister have both had houses, and they've both asked me to source them a company to run them for serviced accommodation, just because those properties, so that's quite nice. But those 2 properties will work well as serviced accommodation. However, there's some properties that will work better as supported living. And that's really the route that I am looking to go down now. That's what we're manifesting, aren't we? We're manifesting.
Oh, it's amazing. So how come you guys feel like that's the right route for you now? Is there a reason?
Well, my auntie is in supported living at Camp Hill, and she basically, I just thought to myself, well, if I can provide housing for people like my auntie, she's not severely, she's just, when she was born, she didn't have enough oxygen, so she has learning difficulties, but she needs support. she needs support. And that's the type of person that we want to try and help, because I feel like it's not like we're Mother Teresa or anything, but it's nice to feel like you're actually doing something that can affect someone in a positive way. So that's kind of the way that I see it.
Such a need, isn't there, as well? And actually, so I do healthcare recruitment as well. So some of the clients that we'll source for, I'll also recruit for. So there's a crossover there as well. But when you speak to these providers and like the shortage of housing there, like when you do take a step back, you're like, oh, that's, it's a pretty bad situation. There's loads of people out there who can't be housed because there's a lack of social housing being, provided by the government or whatnot. So it helps us achieve what we want to do, but it does also help people as well.
It goes full circle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's good if you can get, I don't think there's many properties not really attached to that, is it? Sort of giving back and getting a good feeling.
There's a bad stigma in the property world of what a landlord or anyone in property looks like. And it's a shame because there are so many investors who are really trying to make a difference.
I was going to say, it's just people. You can get good and bad people in every industry.
Yeah,
you can, in the healthcare, you can get good and bad nuns. Like, it's just it's just obviously easier to attract more attention when it's a negative piece of news about someone maybe who did something bad, and then you taint everybody with that brush. But it's interesting how the property world, there are so many ways to do it, but then you really, and then it can be overwhelming at first because there's just so many options. But it's interesting by now that you've really niched down. My dog's just come in. So easily distracted. You can niche down into something that really aligns with you and your values. And for you guys, that was the social housing. We do a bit of social housing as well. But with a slightly different niche. So social housing is really broad as well. There's so many different types of social housing. Oh, and also just for beginners as well, I realized we mentioned R2SA. R2SA is rent to serviced accommodation. Yeah. So basically, do you guys want to explain? It's really
So it's literally just rent to rent or rent to SA, whatever you want to call it. So it's where if we were going to take one on, we would rent property from a landlord, take it for anything from 3 to 5 years, but rather than us living there as a normal tenancy, we would then turn that into an Airbnb or service accommodation, and then make our money back on a nightly basis, which we've done successfully.
We've got 3 now.
Yeah, we had one that didn't work. It's one of those things. But it's a really good strategy. And I think it appeals to lots of people. I think that's why a lot of people, that's their gateway into property, is because it's a fairly low outlay. If we were to buy the house we've got in Harrogate that we do with it, we'd probably have to
grand.
Yeah. Whereas we pumped up like $4,000, and we got it, put a deposit down, furnished it, and started making money out of it. So,
and we were lucky with that because it was completely renovated, renovated 6 months before we got the keys, and it was also furnished, as in like we had the beds and the sofas. However, just a little note for people, it's still, even when you have like the beds and the cupboards and the sofas, goods, and the white goods, it still did cost us, I think it was like $1,750 just for like the furnishing. So like the bedding, the cushions, like making it look nice, the paint that we put on we just did a few feature walls, didn't we, to make it look good. And then like the kitchen stuff, the microwave, the toaster, all those little things. Crazy.
It all adds up, doesn't it?
Like things for the bedrooms, like a chair for the bedroom, like, just things that people need, like a bed.
It's crazy how much a chair can cost.
God,
one statement chair.
We get everything. Facebook Marketplace, our next property that we're doing, I have pretty much got all the furniture, all the beds, everything.
We've got chairs.
Marketplace for £85.
That's amazing.
Oh my God, bravo!
Our spare room is just literally floor to ceiling, full of beds and mattresses. The kids go in there and jump all over them.
But it's also nice because you're repurposing things as well.
Recycling. It's just another ethical way to.
I think with stuff like, you can get really good when it comes to like these larger things like beds and sofas. Like
quality.
People can't be bothered to actually physically get them in their. They might fit them in their car, so they're like, I'll chuck it on Facebook. And we got that one for Bradford Road, didn't we?
Oh my goodness, this was such a good.
And it's like a Barker and Stonehouse sofa, pretty much brand new. Somebody's dog had chewed a bit of the fabric off the back. Like they just ripped a bit of the fabric off the back.
All of the zips.
We're like, all right.
So did they give it to you? Yeah, they gave it to me for free. So I sewed all the zips up, and it was brand new. Honestly, it was
resourceful.
Big old corner sofa.
It was covered in dog hair, but I just hoovered it and washed it, and it was fine. And it's amazing. It's gorgeous.
Just being bothered to like have the energy to do it, you're saving somebody the effort of doing it, because and now you get the really nice sofa.
He worked at Next, so he could, like, in the sofa department at Next, so he was like, well, I'll just get another one for like £300 and it'll be really nice. So he just couldn't be bothered to fix that one, if you see what I mean. The dog loved it too much.
Good old dog.
Out of all the strategies that you do you like, what is working for you best, and do you have a favorite?
I do love the thrill of the chase with the deal sourcing. That's I don't know, I just find that really exciting. Finding a property, when you find it, you're like, ooh, then it might fall through, and then you're like, oh, it's a real roller coaster. It's very up and down. The serviced accommodation is great when it's going well, and when you get a long-term tenant in, that's amazing. But when you get the Karens, oh my God, I find it the most stressful thing, because you're like, are they going to leave me a bad review? Like, if they
can really
leave me a
break
bad
everything,
review,
can't it?
my business might just be like gone. I know that's the worst case scenario, and it probably wouldn't be that case, but
it's just because we've got superhosts, haven't we? So when you've got superhosts on Airbnb, like just trying to protect it at all costs.
Yeah, we should have superhost insurance.
Yeah.
Airbnb, listen up. Superhost insurance.
Genuinely,
it's like protection, no claims.
The guy that set Airbnb up, I really like him. I really respect him. He's an artist as well, wasn't he?
Listen to it. You listened to it,
yeah, really good podcast with Stephen Bartlett. He did. I can't remember his name. It evades me.
I think I heard that one. Yeah. That was
I did hear that one.
Probably make, in terms of like the most successful in terms of like the consistent income, it would be the service accommodation side of thing. But we've been doing that the longest. If you think that like we sort of accidentally started doing that in COVID, we sort of been doing that for 4 years. So we've learned how to do it. We've got more of them. So financially, that is the best and the most steady. But
in the winter, it's not as good. But in the summer, it's
But like enjoyment wise, I suppose the deal sourcing is good, because there is that rare occasion where it's like find the property, you've got someone there, and you just go bang, you go,
that's great.
That was scarily simple, and you've just got a chunk of money.
Like the Lake District one.
Yeah.
But and we do work with co-sourcers, so like that's quite good as well. I do like working with others. Like I find it a bit isolating on your own. Yeah, I think, but I like the BRR. I think because obviously, I did architecture. I studied architecture at uni. And although I only did 3 years, so I've got the BA honours, but I'm not fully qualified architect or anything like that. And I don't even pretend to be. So there's a lot to it. But I've always had an interest in doing up houses, and I suppose like my artistic side helps with like doing up like making them look nice. Like you guys, you can make a property look amazing. And I think like we love that side of it as well. Like I just visualize what it will look like, and I want to make houses that do look visually stunning, that maybe don't cost the earth as well, so that people that are renting, like we might go for, I know you guys are you go for the long term like buy to let, don't you? And I think that's something we're considering with our next BRR. If the numbers will stack, then but I want it to look like really nice, so that when you do make a house look beautiful, you do generally probably get a slightly better tenant, maybe. So there's no guarantee, but it's somewhere for them that is lovely to live. So we rented, didn't we? And it was bloody awful.
Yeah, it was horrible. It was like magnolia everywhere. Like,
oh my God, that was when we first learned about property investing. A lot of the advice was just paint the walls magnolia. It's changed a lot in the
styles have changed.
Styles have changed, exactly.
Like finishing touches to stuff, like handles and that all changes, and it's just those little details that make
that's a good thing, isn't it? Yeah. Again, like you say, like the stigma with landlords, the first thing that pops into your head is the magnolia carpets and the damp and dehumidifier in the corner. But the fact that we're taking a property the one that with the BRR we're doing, it's in a horrible state, and someone was living there, they moved out, and it was only on the market for a few months, and we looked and I was like, this is like genuinely terrible, and we're going to take that, we're going to completely refurbish it. It's everything, kitchen, bathroom, plastering, flooring.
Some areas like a new house, brick, aren't they? Some areas,
and then we're going to rent that to somebody. So it's like, what's so bad about that? Yeah, we're going to make some money out of it.
You're putting the money and the time to be able to do that, to be able to provide a home for someone else. And there's a reason why people sell, and because they can't afford the upkeep of the house that they're living in, or they need they're retiring to downsize, or for whatever reason there's a death in the family that they aren't able to pay for the upkeep of a property. And so like people like yourselves that have the time and the energy to be able to create something modern and new for people to live in and bringing homes back onto the market, I think that's really special.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. No, I just think, the whole like landlord stigma is really bad, but and as you say, it's good and bad in every industry. So it just got
you just got to share more of the good.
Always trust your gut. That's what I say. Like with when you're working with new people, or you're viewing a property, and if you don't get the right gut feeling, just don't.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Oh my god,
yeah.
yes.
We've got lots to say about that.
We need to interview you guys as well.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. We're like, well, this and this and this.
Yeah.
It's a people business, and like through and through.
Yeah.
You're housing people, you're working with people. Like we're also people, we need to take care of ourselves. Yeah. So it's just like being mindful of the humanity every step of the way, and then knowing that if you're not getting on with somebody, that's okay. There'll be someone else.
Yeah. And
we always think there's a client for everyone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or a business partner.
Or a business partner for everyone. It's
I think you only get that with like the experience of doing it and being time served. Like your first time, you're so desperate. Oh my god, it's got to trying to push a square peg in a round hole because you think, if this doesn't happen, it will never happen. Like when you're trying to get your first deal across the line and stuff like that, and then you just become just a bit desensitized. Like it's okay, I'm not going to work with this person if I don't want to.
You don't want to work with. Like
it's just business.
There's so many things I'll take from recruitment which are like transfer across. Like the deal sourcing is,
very similar to
I just saw you source out. It's so many transferables there that when we looked and like they run alongside each other, and I was like, it's really really similar sort of model in terms of what you're doing, and like you say, it's about working with the right people, building relationships, having a good personal brand, and just.
I think that's why we connected like so well online, because we were like, another creative free spirit
who loves dogs.
Thank goodness, we're not alone. And it's just like
we didn't find that in the property space. It was very much everyone around us, especially where we live. We didn't know anyone. We didn't. All of them were very flashy types of people, and we're quite.
Like there's one way to be a property investor, and there isn't.
No.
Like,
I agree.
You can be ethical.
I think sometimes if you shout loudly about stuff, it's not always necessarily a good sign. Not that I'm against saying what I do. Like on my Instagram, I'm going on constantly about myself and what I do. It's like, we both do, don't we? It's like the us show. But at the end of the day, like, I don't know. I think if you constantly flashing it about, and I don't know, I just
can be a bit smoky.
It's not us really. Is it really? And it probably is. They probably are doing really well. They probably are driving that Ferrari. And when I get the Ferrari, I'll be honest.
They got your orange Ferrari. It's just nice to be able to see more people like yourselves, and we are seeing a lot more people pop up on our socials who are very similar, and and
the goal is the same. It's like flexible freedom to choose what you do, how your day looks.
100%.
And I think like that's one thing which Instagram is good for, because it does give everyone a platform. And I suppose, like you say, at the beginning there was that one way of being a property investor looks like this, and they want this, and this is what you want to be, and people will be tricked into following that. And I've seen that on Instagram a lot. See a lot of people, there's lots of authenticity on Instagram, but there's also a lot of bollocks. And you're like, people are, but it's not because that person's intentions aren't right, but they're copying whatever that role model, whatever it is, and they're following, think, well, I have to do that. And you can just see, and you're like, I don't really think that's you. Do you know what I mean? And there are a lot of people using this, I look at it and I'm like,
Will says it how
it's like they're trying to be in this like,
good.
look how busy I am. I'm just so busy and all this. it's almost like
it makes you feel like you want to be busy, and it's like, that's not why I got into this.
No, the goal was to be able to have flexibility, and if you don't want to be busy, then you don't have
must be doing this wrong. But each to their own. I get it, each to their own, but I just think you sort of just got to cut through the noise a lot of the time, and just sort of see what what is real and what isn't, really, and what works for you and what you align with, like you said. So and that's I suppose Instagram can be good and bad for that.
Yeah, I take Instagram like I know some people have to have breaks from Instagram because it's quite overwhelming, and I can understand that. Like it, some people go, oh, they're in this place and I'm not. We're not. Why aren't I there? And I understand that definitely as a mindset, but I don't view it like that, because I view it like, oh, that person is doing that. Well, why can't I do that? I'll do that. Like as in like if
it's motivating.
I see it as a motivator, see it as inspiration. Like if I see someone who's doing better than me, I go, great. I'll learn from you. Like that's brilliant. I'm going to watch your reels and I'm going to see what you do. And if I agree with it, then I'll try it as well. Like, and that's what I think I like Instagram for that respect, because you can bring people up as well. Like you can help people to make money as well. Like you don't have to keep it all to yourself. Like there's enough in there for everyone to have something.
It's a big enough pot, isn't it? But you learn that, like the power of having a good network around you. And obviously I only went on Instagram like a couple of months ago, and I do mine. I'm doing mine as more of like just like a vlog, so to speak, of what we're doing, and something we can look back on in 10 years. Oh my gosh, we had that leak in this, and yours is more, you're building that network and using it to like co-source and deal with people. So we've got like maybe slightly different aims of what we want to get out of our sort of accounts or whatnot. But you learned really quickly, didn't you? You were like, people are supportive. Like there are really supportive people, and the amount of time that people gave you and you now give to people as well, you were like, this is, I've not really seen this in any other community. I've never seen it
in the art. Being an artist, there was not that. There was no, it was very isolating. Like they're very on your own, like, and very competitive. Whereas in property, it was like a breath of fresh air, because it was like, well, we can share this, like, like there's enough. And
I think that it's so lovely that because this is why we really enjoy talking to other property investors on Instagram, because we never had that when we started, and anyone that we did know that were investing, it was quite hush hush. You didn't really tell people out of judgment, so we never opened our mouths. And it's so nice to be able to see other people's journeys and go, oh, if they have more, then good for them, they worked hard, like celebrate them, and what can I learn from them? I think it's so important I think it's easy, we're all human, and it's easy to compare ourselves and go, oh, I should be further than I am because I started this time.
We're definitely guilty of that.
But for us, we had to take a step back and go, oh wait, no, we could have been, if we went full time in property how many years ago, but we chose to pursue a passion of ours. And property was the backbone for allowing us to be able to pursue something we loved, and we're so grateful for it. And now we're full time in property. It's just amazing to be able to see where everyone's journeys. And I'm so thankful and grateful for Instagram for exposing us to people like yourselves that we feel very aligned with.
Definitely, I think it's like divine timing, isn't it? I think you don't necessarily, to quote the book that I'm reading, by the way,
love it.
you don't necessarily, if it's not right for you at the time, it won't happen. It's just gonna trust the process. It will happen. You just have to be patient. And I think in today's society, we want instant gratification a lot.
Oh my god,
and we're all guilty of that. Like I go to McDonald's, if the food's not there in like 10 minutes, I'm like, where's the
McDonald's? This was supposed to be fast food.
But if it's a slow process. Like building something. Rome wasn't built in a day. Like you can't just get rich overnight. Like it's not going to happen. And some people's journeys will be slower, and some people's will be really quick. You'll hear of people that have made $1 million in a year, and I often think, like, how sustainable is that? Like,
exactly,
yeah, we agree.
We've built quite slowly and methodically and very carefully, and every move we make is premeditated, isn't it? Like, it's
we're not risk averse, but we're definitely not like gung ho. So even
we're very mindful.
Excuse me. Yeah, like we can use that Malin deal as a as an example. So when we went out and the landlord was like, "Okay, come and see it," we went and looked at it. We were blown away. We're like, "This is amazing.
We knew it was
this is going to make us money." And we were like, again, you see on Instagram people going, "Oh, I get £200 a night for a booking." We were like, this could be like our,
is like
our cash
a night.
Yeah, so we were like, this is great. And they didn't want to do it. And we were gutted, but we parked it, moved on. And then they came out the woodwork 5 months later. And the timing wasn't right for us because I was just gearing up to start up for myself and we were going full time into it all.
We had all our savings, but we
had everything there. And we looked at it and we sort of said to ourselves, this is our plan for the next 12 months. And in it, at no point was there take on another Airbnb immediately. And we were like, that isn't what we planned.
Not a rent to rent.
Yeah.
Because we knew we were going to buy.
So we were just like, as tempting as it is, it's going to throw us off. So we have to sit there and wait, and we thought about it and like, no, it isn't the right thing to do. So
it was tempting though. It was a test because we were like, we did really want to do it. But then like with I suppose like the mistake that we've made, because I know you were going to ask a sort of like a mistake question, but we took on we took on a property in York, and everyone says York's amazing, and it is, but the problem is this one, and I put so much time into this property and effort, and I went in with a JV partner, and honestly it was the most nightmarish thing ever. Like, it wasn't the end of the world, but the neighbours were horrible. Awful. We talk to you guys because you've had this as well. So we had a situation where the neighbours were elderly, and I'm talking like late 70s, probably 80s, and it was a detached house. So I thought, no problem with neighbours because it's detached, there's not going to be noise, we vet all our guests, there's going to be families going. I didn't see that there was a problem. Because I do think about those things before, signing a contract and stuff. I speak to the neighbours, I go and introduce myself, I take them a gift, and anyway, they were fine at first, and then I think maybe the second guest that stayed, they slightly, and I'm talking like 5 centimetres, maybe 10 centimetres, they drove, because their front lawn goes onto the driveway, and they drove like 10 centimetres onto their front lawn. And this was in the winter, so there was a small patch of grass where the grass had flattened slightly. There was no indentation, it was just where the grass was flattened. And they sent me this horrible email, and then they just emailed me about 3 or 4 times every time someone stayed, to the point where I just said, and it was ridiculous because it wasn't cutting their lawn up, it was fine.
How did they get your email? Did they do it through?
They asked my email. And I thought, do you know what? I thought, this is going one way. They're documenting everything in the email threads. And I thought, I don't want any sort of court case, or do you know what I mean? I just don't.
Over some grass.
Over grass. And they were taking photos every time. And I was just like, for me, it just wasn't. I just didn't want to deal. Knowing that I was making them unhappy, even though they were probably unvalidated in what they were saying, they were really annoyed by it. They were really upset by it, and it was making their lives like hell as well. So this tiny bit of grass, and I said to them, look, I'll put a fence up. They said, no, it's open plan, we don't want a fence up. I said, what do you want me to do? And then in the end, they insisted on a meeting, didn't they? Where I had to physically.
We didn't want this meeting. We were like, look, can we just? And this is the thing, as much as it was upsetting them or whatnot, they just didn't want it to be an Airbnb.
Yeah,
they lived there all their life. They thought that.
Because it's got a
they just
bad
didn't
name
like
to
it.
it.
We want the family. We didn't like people coming and going, and they got it in their heads. We tried so much,
and I think the more they look online as well, the more they go on Google situations, the more they're going to come across horror stories or other people's bad experiences.
That's what the media
and then
paints.
Their brains just got
it was an attached house,
there.
and it was a Harry Potter themed house. It was,
they thought young men were coming.
Families were going there and stuff, and we were just like, well, look, can we put up a fence? Well, can we? And to the point we're like, well, we'll put something on our driveway, and they were like, no. And then we had to go and have this meeting with them. But it got to the point they were going out and accosting guests.
Yeah, and we got a bad review from that, which luckily I rang the guest and he took it off. But that could have been the end of it. Like, it was a 1-star review, and it was about how the neighbour was constantly harassing them. So
I think that's a big learning, isn't it? Like, with us, we've been through a similar experience, and we were just voice noting each other at this point where we were like, oh, what's happening? But basically, with the serviced accommodation, if the neighbours are unhappy, it's game over pretty much. There's nothing you can do.
We do want to say, actually, because we'll round it up now anyway, but we want to say, is there any advice that you would give to anyone that's starting in property from your personal experience? Any lessons learned that you think would be really helpful for everyone who are considering going into sourcing, rent to SA, social housing, BRR?
It's all overwhelming. So what do you advise?
So I would say, and the first thing is just to have a plan and have a mid to long term plan. So there is so many different things, and there's so much noise, like I say, and there's information overload. But if you know where you want to get to, what your end goal is, then you can sort of work your way back and see what way is the best vehicle to get there. I think that's why people do deal sourcing, because it's a fairly low barrier to entry. So have a plan, stick to it, and build a strong network of people, like we say, align to your values, and people who are going to uplift you and support you, because you're going to need it. And then just go for it and just do it. One thing I've seen in the community is a lot of procrastination. The training's amazing, but get what you need and then go with it. And you're going to learn from doing it in real life, which is difficult because it's basically saying chuck the training wheels off and just throw yourself into it. But I think if you do that and you're committed to what you do, then you're going to make a success of it, really.
What he said.
Yeah, that's really good.
Don't procrastinate. Feel the fear and just jump.
Oh, I do want to ask as well, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time as well with your property venture?
There'll be an orange Ferrari.
I don't have any houses. I'll just have the orange Ferrari.
We're going to live in it.
I really don't want it.
Kids in the boot. No, I think in terms of the actual property side of things, it's to scale the portfolio of BRRs.
Yeah.
Probably go down, having a mixture of leasing those to social housing providers.
I want to do children's homes.
Yeah, and children's homes. Yeah, and then having some traditional, buy-to-lets. But we were both saying at the minute we're using investor finance for our first one, so we've got a pot which limits us to basically, we can do a 3-bedroom house up and then put it out. We want to get to a point where we can sit down with these providers and say, right, we've got a bungalow. Give us a floor plan and we will put, a sensory room here, or so we can actually build these, to order, so to speak, for these providers and do them that way. So to move away from the sourcing side of stuff and have it more from the sort of buying and developing and going down that route. Yeah.
And then
I love
big
that.
plans.
Yeah, big plans.
Nice.
We can't wait to watch your journey.
You know where you're heading.
Yeah.
You've got a plan and you know exactly how it's going to look. And I love that.
Oh, thanks, guys. Well,
thank you for being on. We're so happy.
We hope to meet you in person actually really soon.
My sister's moved down to Cornwall, to Newquay, so it's on the way. Yeah.
Lovely. Well, now we're going to have to meet up.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. We'll go for McDonald's.
So if you guys if anyone wants to follow, how do I? Sorry, we're like practicing.
So anyone wants to know more about Sarah and Will, then we'll put their handles below.
Do you want to share what your handle is? We'll put it below anyway.
Oh God.
They're really simple.
Because I know you've got a couple. I don't know which one you'd rather.
Should we put both? Check what it is.
I'm Will Dobson Property.
And mine is I never know. Oh, Sarah Dobson Property. Sorry. Yeah, Sarah Dobson.
Hard to remember.
What's my name?
Yeah.
What's my name and what do I do?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. It's been really, really great to talk to you guys.
Thank
really
you so much
appreciate
for
your
having us.
time.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's been lovely.
Oh, thanks for being on, and we'll see you really soon.
See you. Thank you.